Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Mia Mohammed Chaudhary and welcome to AMI Chemistry class. Today we are going to start a new chapter, so let's not delay anymore and let's begin. So let us start. So first at the very beginning, as I have written there, so we are going to get a short review, or we are going to listen to a short review on the previous chapter, which was the reactions of acids. So the reaction of acids with alkali. The reaction of acid with alkali is a neutralization reaction. The reaction of acid with alkali is a neutralization reaction which gives out heat, or we also say that it is an exothermic reaction. Equation was given that this is the example of word equation. Acid plus alkali, given arrow, forward arrow, right, salt plus water. This is the word equation. And the example of word equation is, for example, hydrochloric acid plus sodium hydroxide will give us sodium chloride plus water. And if we write the chemical equation for this thing, so the chemical equation will be for hydrochloric it will be HCl, and for sodium hydroxide it will be NaOH. Now in hydrochloric acid, we don't use pure acid, so if it's written aqueous, give bracket and write HCl aqueous, write H, capital letter H, capital letter C and small letter L, HCl, and give bracket and write AQ, which means aqueous, and the word aqueous means that the water is present in the solution. The word aqueous means that water is present in the solution. So another one is the alkali is sodium hydroxide, NaOH, sodium hydroxide, aqueous. Also give bracket and write aqueous, Na, capital letter N, small letter A, capital letter O and capital letter H, NaOH, aqueous. Give a forward arrow and write NaCl, for capital letter N, small letter A, capital letter C and small letter L. Write S, give S and write H2O liquid. Sorry, it will not be solid, it will be in aqueous form, as the salt still contains some water. So it will be in aqueous form. So the chemical equation will be H2SO4 aqueous plus not H2SO4, that's sulfuric acid, as we are doing it with hydrochloric acid. So HCl aqueous plus NaOH aqueous gives us NaCl aqueous plus H2O liquid. NaCl aqueous means that the sodium chloride or the table salt we are getting here is containing, or it has water in it. So a neutralization reaction now comes to the point which is in our next chapter, that what is a neutralization reaction. A neutralization reaction can be defined as a chemical reaction in which an acid and an alkali quantitatively react together to form a salt and water as products. In a neutralization reaction, there is a combination of H plus ions and OH negative ions which forms water. A neutralization reaction, spelling of neutralization is NEU, new, TRA, neutral, LI, neutralize, ZATION, neutralization reaction can be defined as a chemical reaction in which an acid and an alkali quantitatively react together to form a salt and water as products. In neutralization reaction, there is a combination of H plus and OH minus ions. H plus ions and you can write H plus and OH minus ions, or you can write H plus ions and OH minus ions, which forms water. So basically by this thing I mean that in a neutralization there have to be the specific amount of, in a specific amount of acid, it has to be a specific amount of alkali. For example, if you take 50 cm cube of acid in a beaker, and you, for neutralizing that 50 cm cube of acid, you need 50 cm cube of alkali. If you take 40 cm cube of alkali, only 40 cm cube of acid will be neutralized, and 10 centimeter cube acid will not be neutralized. So for quantity here, the quantitative means that an appropriate amount of acid for the appropriate amount of alkali, or an appropriate amount of alkali for an appropriate amount of acid. In a neutralization reaction, there is H plus ions and OH minus ions. See, in HCl acid, which means hydrochloric acid, in HCl there is H plus ions, right? H plus Cl minus, that's why it doesn't have any overall charge, and sodium hydroxide, sodium Na plus and OH minus, that way it does not have any charge. So see, it has H plus ions and OH minus ions. So this is the reason I have said here that it contains H plus, it has a combination of H plus ions and OH minus ions, which essentially forms water. As we have learned that acid plus alkali gives us salt and water. Now let us listen to the reaction of acid with a metal. When an acid reacts with a metal, it produces a salt and hydrogen gas. When an acid reacts with a metal, it produces salt and hydrogen gas. For example, the word equation will be metal plus acid. Give a forward arrow, which means that you have to say that it gives us, when you are going to say the word equation, the arrow means that it gives us, or which is equals to metal plus acid when they react, gives us salt plus water. Salt plus water. I'm extremely sorry, it should be salt and hydrogen gas, not salt and water. Metal plus acid gives us salt and hydrogen gas. Metal plus acid gives us salt and hydrogen gas. Mg solid plus H2SO4 aqueous, which gives us MgSO4 aqueous and H2 gas. I'm extremely sorry if I said it wrong. I am extremely sorry. Now metals react with acids and displaces hydrogen from the acid to produce hydrogen gas. Metals reacts with acids and displaces hydrogen from the acids to produce hydrogen gas and metal salt. If a matchstick is brought near the mouth of the tube containing the product of the reaction, we hear a pop sound. It is because hydrogen gas has formed. So whenever a metal and an acid is being reacted, and if we bring a burning matchstick in front of the beaker or in front of the container, we are going to see that we are going to hear a pop sound. We are going to hear a pop sound, and that's because the hydrogen gas has been formed. It is because hydrogen gas is being formed. Now today our chapter is neutralization. Again we have to learn that what is neutralization. A neutralization reaction can be defined as a chemical reaction. A neutralization reaction can be defined as a chemical reaction in which an acid and alkali quantitatively react together. You can write alkali or you can write base. Any one is correct. An acid and alkali quantitatively react quantitatively. As I explained, quantitatively means that the appropriate amount of acid for which an alkali will be neutralized, or for an appropriate amount of acid, or for an appropriate amount of acid and appropriate amount of alkali which will be needed to neutralize the acid. That is the meaning of quantitatively. The right amount of thing. So the another definition of neutralization reaction is that a neutralization reaction is a reaction of an acid and a base that results in an ionic compound and possibly water, or you can say that which results in a salt and water, or which gives salt and water. Let me write both the definition, and we are going to learn some new things here in this chapter, inshallah. So, as you guys are seeing here, that I have written the first definition of what is a neutralization reaction. I have written the first definition of what is a neutralization reaction. So, please take a SS or please write it on your note copy. If you take time to write, if you need to take time to write, then please, I would request you to pause the video, write this thing on a note copy, and then play the video again. As I will not say to take screenshots, because the reason is that, because if you guys take screenshots, later on it will just remain on your gallery, and ultimately after a certain period of time, after a week or two, you are gonna delete that screenshot, and ultimately you are not getting the appropriate notes. So I would request everyone to please pause the video and write this thing on the note copy. And if you still want to take a SS, please take a SS of this thing and please write it on your note copy, as it will help you to understand the chapter better, and it will also help you to gain marks in your exams when the examiner is going to ask you that what is a neutralization reaction, and the mark is given at least 3 or 4. So the first thing is that a neutralization reaction can be defined as a chemical reaction. This will give you 1 mark, in which an acid and an alkali quantitatively react together to form a salt and water as products. This is the second thing, which will give you 2 marks. And in a neutralization reaction, there are a combination of H plus ions and OH minus ions, which forms water. So either this thing can be a 4 marks. If this is a 4 marks, then for identifying that there is a combination of H plus ions and OH minus ion, you are going to get 1 mark. And for identifying that this thing makes water, you're gonna get 1 mark, and that's 4 mark. And ultimately, if it's given 3 marks, then the whole line, that to understand that there is a combination of H plus ions and OH minus ions which forms water, is gonna give you 1 mark. So ultimately, this is the answer. This is the answer of a question for 3 to 4 marks. You are gonna get 4 marks if you're gonna write it, and it is written in a very simple manner. It is written in a very simple manner. I didn't use any complex words or any complex narrative to make you guys understand. So now let us look to the second definition of this thing. Now let us look at the second definition of this thing, which is that a neutralization reaction is a reaction of an acid and a base that results in an ionic compound and possibly water. Or you can, instead of an ionic compound and possibly water, you can write which gives, or that results. Yeah, if you write that results, you have to write ionic compound and possibly solid. See, the salt here which is producing here, for example, sodium chloride. For example, sodium chloride. Here, this thing is that, the thing here is that is an ionic compound. The salt, it is forming an ionic compound. So this is also an ionic compound. So the salt here is an ionic compound. NaCl is an ionic compound here. NaCl is an ionic compound. Another example is that magnesium nitrate. If we react an acid, for example nitric acid, with alkali is magnesium hydroxide. if we react nitric acid with magnesium hydroxide, then we are gonna get magnesium nitrate plus water. Then here the salt magnesium nitrate is also, here the salt magnesium nitrate is also an ionic compound. So let us not waste any more time and let us see the second definition with an example, and later on we are going to learn something new. So you guys are seeing here that I have written second and third. By the meaning of second and third here, I mean that there are three definitions, so you can write the same thing for 2 marks. When it's given for 2 marks, if the answer is asking, if the question is asking an answer for you, and if the question is asking you an answer for 2 marks, then you can write the same answer in 2 different ways. The second way is that I have written here second because I have shown the first way, which is an answer for 3 to 4 marks. And if it is for 2 marks, then you are going to write in any of these 2 ways, in the second way or the third way. So the second way is that a neutralization reaction is a reaction of an acid and a base. A neutralization reaction is a reaction of an acid and a base that results in an ionic compound and probably water. That results in an ionic compound and probably water. Full stop. There are no punctuations in between. There is only one full stop at the end. A neutralization reaction is a reaction of an acid and a base that results in an ionic compound and probably water. A neutralization reaction is a reaction, and a third way is that a neutralization reaction is a reaction of an acid with an alkali, which produces salt and water. A neutralization reaction is a reaction of an acid with an alkali, which produces salt and water. Full stop. This is the same answer. See, I have even given the short note that it is the same definition with few different words. There is nothing changed. Nothing is changed except few words. The meaning of both definitions are same. The meaning of both definitions are exactly the same, so you don't need to worry. The third thing is that a neutralization reaction is an exothermic reaction. It gives out heat. See, in the previous chapter we have learned that when an acid and an alkali react, it gives out heat. We can also call it as an exothermic reaction. So the neutralization reaction is also known as an exothermic reaction, as the neutralization reaction occurs when an acid and an alkali is reacted, or when an acid and base is reacted. So when an acid and a base, or when an acid and an alkali is reacted, it gives out heat. It is known as an exothermic reaction. The same way the neutralization reaction is also known as an exothermic reaction. The H plus ions of the acid are turned into water. The H plus ions of the acid are turned into water. Always try to remember that the acids will always have H plus ions and the alkalis or bases will all time have OH negative ions. A neutralization reaction is an exothermic reaction. It gives out heat. Full stop. A neutralization reaction is an exothermic reaction. It gives out heat. Full stop. So, the temperature of the solution rises a little. So, the temperature of the solution rises a little. If anyway the question asks you that the answer should be of 1 mark, the answer will be of 1 mark for this question, that why the temperature rises in a neutralization reaction. Why does the temperature rise in a neutralization reaction? You can basically write that the neutralization reaction is an exothermic reaction. The neutralization reaction is an exothermic reaction. It gives out heat. It gives out heat. If you want, you can write to the surroundings. If a neutralization reaction is an exothermic reaction, it gives out heat to the surroundings. So the temperature of the solution rises a little. Let me write this thing. Let me write this thing. So, as you guys are seeing that I have written two questions of 1 mark. So, both of them are one, each of them are one of 1 mark, so both of them together are 2 marks. Why neutralization reaction? The first one is that why neutralization reaction gives out heat. A neutralization reaction is an exothermic reaction. It gives out heat to the surroundings. If you don't want to write it gives out heat to the surroundings, you don't need to, because I know that you guys are enough intelligent, so are the examiners who are going to check your copies. They are also enough intelligent for people to understand that exothermic reactions means that type of reaction which gives out heat to the surroundings. So I have written it as it was in my, as I wrote it in my note copy, So if you want to write, no problem. If you don't want to write, then don't write, also no problem. The second thing is that what type of reaction is a neutralization reaction? It may come as a MCQ, it may come as an MCQ, it may come as a 1 word answer, or it may come as a one mark answer, or it's maybe a 1 word answer. I already said. So it is an exothermic reaction. Full stop. That's all. You don't have to write anything more. It is an exothermic reaction, describes the whole thing. You don't need to write its whole background history. You don't need to write its whole background history. So that's all for today. Inshallah, in the next class we are going to learn more about from this chapter. So, Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you for being with Ami.